Good day. Welcome to Nona Black TV. Today we're going to be getting into the Trump indictment for the state of Florida. As you know, him and several others were charged under the RICO statute. And there a list of several violations. We're going to get into that. I did print. I have the documents. Went over them. Been going through it because I wanted to read and understand it for myself. Encourage anyone else who is interested to also. And then for those who may not have time, I wanted to get into a little bit of it and break it down for you, in case they didn't cover it on another site that you watched. Welcome, of course, to the channel. I'm going to continue to bring you content and things of interest. One of the reasons that I am delving down into the indictments for the state of Georgia, because I wanted to understand more what really happened. Not just the snippets that we hear, like a video, a call here or there, or some of the false statements that we may have seen over this time. But I wanted to get into the devil is in the details, into what was really going on and what happened. So the state of Florida versus Donald John Trump and multiple other people. I am going to get into the part of the differences. I noticed that there were some different counts that Rudy Giuliani was charged that President Trump wasn't charged. So I do want to get into those differences because it was eye-opening to me and major. As we get into the indictment, of course, Donald John Trump was charged under the first count is the violation of Georgia RICO Racketeering Influence and Corrupt Organization Act. And so he is charged under that. All of the defendants are charged under that. Donald Trump is also charged with count 5, solicitation and violation of oath by public officer, and count number 9, conspiracy to commit impersonating a public officer. He's charged under count 11, conspiracy to commit forgery in the first degree. He's charged under count 13, which is conspiracy to commit false statements and writings. In count 15, he's charged with conspiracy to commit filing false documents. Under count 17, he is charged with conspiracy to commit forgery in the first degree. Under count 19, he's charged with conspiracy to commit false statements and writings again. And under counts 27 through 29, President Trump is ex-president, twice impeached, now fourth time indicted. Donald John Trump is charged with counts 27, filing false documents, count 28, solicitation and violation of oath by public officer, and count 29, another count of false statement and writings. And then he's charged in count 38, solicitation and violation of oath by public officer, and count 39, false statements and writings again. As you know, he's been charged in these counts. Of course, he is always subject These are the presentations of the state of Florida for the counts that they've charged. And of course, he's innocent until proven guilty. Of course, we know that there's a lot of information recordings, things out there. So you also have to use wisdom for that. But I do want to say that these are very serious charges. And I don't think that the Attorney General would have charged them lightly. These are state crimes, so they're not pardonable by the President of the United States. As you know, we have 2024 election coming. But there were, before I get into some of the things that it's saying that Donald Trump was charged for, I do want to get into the differences in what Rudolph Giuliani was charged and was not charged for. As we continue, Donald John Trump was also charged with counts 27 through 29. I think I did read that. Filing false documents, solicitation and violation of oath by a public officer, false statements and writings. He was also charged under solicitation, counts 38 through 39, solicitation of a violation of oath by a public officer, as well as false statements and writings. There was a difference in what Rudolph Giuliani was charged in regards to Trump. And he was charged for counts 6 through 7 and counts 23 through 24 that ex-President Trump wasn't. So I did want to highlight what those were because they were extremely serious to me. Of the counts Rudolph Giuliani was charged, Rudolph William Louis Giuliani, which is listed in the indictment, his name, counts 6 through 7. Count 6 is solicitation of the Vice President of the United States to reject legal votes by qualified electors of Georgia. So Giuliani is actually being charged for that. So he was part of the arm of the conspiracy is what is alleged. And then count 7, it is unlawful. He's being charged with unlawful breach of election equipment in Georgia and elsewhere. And I don't think that they're highlighting this enough in the regular mainstream media, but it's important. America needs to know that they actually breached the equipment because this can impact future elections. Because depending on what they took, what they copied, they can try to use that in another election that's coming up to say that something was inappropriate or wasn't correct, and that could be a future problem. In that count 23, count 7, the second part of that, it was saying a conspiracy, access voting equipment, and voting data. So they actually got voter data from Georgia, and it said elsewhere in what it was charged. So that could be some of the other states. Members of the enterprise stole data. So they stole information, voter information. And like I said, who's to say that they won't try to use that in the future or in a future election? And when they're counting the votes to try to manipulate, say, oh, someone voted twice, or, to say that this person illegally voted because they have people voting information and data. It says it was stolen, including ballot images. So that's what I'm saying. Giuliani is being charged for this. These are actual actions. I know it's been countered in the news that they have the right to make whatever statements they will like. but the charges are being charged for actions actually being committed. And this is one of those things. I think it should be highlighted more in the media. They stole actual data from the state, including ballot images. This could disrupt um, future elections. Who's to say that they won't bring out those images and say, to try to say someone voted twice or someone did this or someone did that. They access the voting equipment software. So depending on what their software is and how they do it, it just struck me as strange. They would also, and I think he was one of the lead person saying about the Dominion software and this and that about it. But in this indictment, is saying that he was one of the ones who was engaging in this illegal activity and personal voter information. So not only were they accessing the copy of the ballots, images of the ballots, stole data from the voting equipment, and voting access to voting software, they also stole voters' personal voter information. And this can be used in manipulative ways. Uh, and these are extremely serious charges. These are serious allegations, and and I think the people of Georgia should know, as well as the people of the United States, because this is the very thing that often that I talk about as far as how important it is for voting and voting rights. It's fundamental to supposedly United States, supposedly to the Constitution, about voting. And then, of course, with the extended Bill of Rights, that is to extend it to all Americans. So, as they're engaging in what the state of Georgia is calling a violation of the RICO Act, racketeering influence, and most of the charges do say that they worked contingently together in this conspiracy. So this was a coordinated campaign, is what Georgia is alleging. It's a coordinated systematic entity that they were trying to do these things and actually committing these things. And as we know from the violence that happened on January 6th, the breaching of the Capitol, the interfering in the actual votes being counted, the certification of the votes for President of the United States, that their actions had an impact. Even though ultimately the votes were eventually counted, they did some of just about everything to make sure that it wasn't, as going into illegal means and things to do that. And then it says it did disseminate this information that was taken and stolen to other members of the conspiracy. So they also engaged in not only taking what it's saying voting data, ballot images, voting equipment, and personal data of voters, but they also disseminated it to others. So it's not only that one person will have the information who can manipulate it or misuse it, then it went out to multiple people who have been charged in this conspiracy in the RICO Act. And that was charged under Rudolph Giuliani. Also, part of those charges were under Robert David Cheeley. Not everyone was charged that, so that was something that was specific to them, which was eye-opening to me. That was count 6 and 7, and Rudy Giuliani. Just wanted to make sure. I think I listed all the counts that ex-President Trump was charged under. Um, Giuliani was also charged under count one, violation of the Georgia RICO Racketeering, Influence, and Corrupt Organization Act. Count three, solicitation and violation of oath by public officer. And count 6 and 7 was the one I just went through. Count 9 was conspiracy to commit impersonating a public officer. Count 11, conspiracy to commit forgery in the first degree. Count 13, conspiracy to commit false statements and writings. Count 15, 11, 9, 11, 13, 15, 17, 19 were also charged under ex-President Trump. He was also, count 15, conspiracy to commit filing false documents. Count 17, conspiracy to commit forgery in the first degree. Count 19, conspiracy to commit false statements and writings. And then he was charged with count 23 and 24 that ex-President Trump wasn't filed with. So I wanted to delve into what those counts were. Count 23 was solicitation and violation of oath by public officer. And it says under there that he's being charged with unlawfully appointing presidential electors from the state of Georgia in a willful and intentional violation of terms and oath of said persons as prescribed by law. So he was actively involved in a scheme to provide false electors. So that would be a direct violation to steal the votes of the people of the state of Georgia, to put in electors to have them do whatever they would want them to do and not of the will of the people. Giuliani is also charged in count 24, false statements and writings. And I wanted to delve into this because a few different people were charged with that. And it says that the Fulton County election worker fraudulently counted the false statements that he said, these are the three things that they listed under this count 24 is what Giuliani is being charged with. False statements and writings, where he said that the Fulton County electors and workers fraudulently counted certain ballots as much as 5 times. He said that as far as about the State Farm Arena where they counted on November 3rd, 2020. And it struck me a lot of this was going on 2020 when so many people were dying from COVID. He also stated that 2,560 felons voted illegally on November the 3rd. He also stated that 10,315 dead people voted. And all of these statements they had with no proof to provide. They did have court cases, and they were all dismissed or rejected as not having proof to substantiate them. So those things Giuliani is being charged with. Boy, look here. When I know I had heard that they had breached the voting machines, but it didn't seem to get into and dwell down into that. But when you get into knowing that, I think every American should know that no matter Republican, Democrat, Independent, no pendant, don't care. You should care that anyone will be in the process. If you voted, you took your time to vote, you did your due diligence, you studied the candidates, the issues, and you went out to vote, that someone would be accessing the voting equipment, the software, images of the ballot, your personal voting data being compromised. You should care. There's no reason why any American shouldn't care. And when you talk about pride and the flag, and all of those things, if you can't hold a person's vote to representation to the highest regard, the sacrifice, how can you say you honor the flag? These things matter. You got the correlation to what is happening to against voting in the United States. It's imperative that we as citizens do our due diligence to make sure that we are being staying aware and finding out what's going on, and also fighting against any illegality. We want the law applied fairly and legally to everyone. So I just thought that was extremely important, and I wanted to make sure any the people who come to the Nona Black TV family were aware of it as well. Just want to go quickly over some of the counts that ex-president Trump was, as I know, count 6 and 7, count 23 and 24. Rudy Giuliani was charged with that weren't actually charged to ex-president, twice impeached, now fourth time indicted Trump. But the violation, he is charged with count 1, the violation of Georgia RICO Racketeering, Influence, and Corrupt Organization Act. I did want to kind of dwell into that to see, just to state what the count was actually saying. He was in 1 and 5. Let's see, go to 5. I wanted to just highlight that. In 5, it breaks down more about the oath, what's being done under there. And it was saying the unlawfully solicited, requested, and impugned Speaker of the Georgia House of Representatives, David Ralston, public officer, engaged in conduct constituting a felony offense, a violation of oath by a public official. And this part where it says it is charged with the presidential electors, the unlawful, the wanting to put in the wrong electors from the state of Georgia, willful and intentional violation of terms of the oath, said person prescribed by law, intent to personally engage in said contrary to the law of the state of Florida, and the good order, peace, and dignity thereof. And in count 9, just went to, I'm not going to go over all of the counts, not to hold you too long with it, but I did just wanted to go into so you would see some of the seriousness of this. And it kept striking me every time I saw something that they were being charged in 2020, and it just made me think back to how many citizens were dying from COVID, families suffering major loss, more than one relative at a time. In count 9, Donald John Trump, Rudolph Giuliani, John Charles Eastman, Kenneth Chesebro, Ray Stallings Smith III, Robert David Cheeley, Michael A. Roman, with the offense of conspiracy to commit impersonating a public officer for said accused individually and as persons concerned in the commission of a crime, and together, which indicated some unindicted co-conspirators in the county of Fulton and state of Georgia on the 6th day of December 2020 and the 14th day of December 2020, unlawfully conspired to cause certain individuals to falsely hold themselves as duly elected qualified personal electors from the state of Georgia, public officers with the intent to mislead the President of the United States, Senate, the Archivist of the United States, the Georgia Secretary of State, the Chief Judge of the United States, the District Court of the Northern District of Georgia, into believing they were actually such officers. So they did more than talk about filing electors or having people say that they were electors. They actually did it in writings and filings. So they had these people actually putting in as the defendant's name in the count 8, accounting co-conspirators. The above incorporated references of fully the four falsely held themselves as said public officers by placing in the United States mail said persons documents titled Certificate of the Votes of the 2020 Electors from Georgia in Fulton County, Georgia, which were overt act to affect the object of conspiracy contraries to the laws of the state, the good order and peace and dignity thereof. It amazes me the level of which people can go to for corruption. But this is the man who is now presently the leading candidate for the Republican Party. I know the debates are coming up while he is yet leading in, I guess, polls for the Republican nomination. Will he be nominated? With all the charges that have been charged and alleged against ex-president, twice impeached, 4-time indicted Trump, the conspiracies that is alleged, the actual actions, the actual breaching of voter systems, the Republican Party has to make a reasoned decision to go along as this is the kind of person that you want to lead your party, want to lead us as citizens again, as the president, want to lead your children, want to lead your communities, want to be the standard for what it alleges is consistent lying, falsehoods, conspiracy, illegality. It just strikes me from the time from when I grew up as a young child, supposedly the compassionate conservative side, supposed for the Republican Party. People can choose what they want to believe, but the facts are the facts. And my concern is that all the facts do come out. Some people are not going to believe the facts no matter what. These are the days and times that we live in. But there are people on the Republican side who may be of good character, of good reason, who will listen to the facts, whether they be the Democrat, Republican, Independent. It should be important to all that voting matters, and no one should have the right to steal a person's vote or negate it, not because of the color of their skin or no other reason. Just as they will have that same right for themselves to pick the right to pick a Donald John Trump if that's what they wish, or a right to pick Arden Biden if that is their choice, or any other candidate. We have to make sure that it's most important to us that we do everything that we can. It's a lot of more stuff in here. I didn't want to make too long a video, but I did just want to highlight those things. I did want to dwell down into that once I saw the other charges that Rudolph Giuliani had. It was very extremely disturbing to me, and I hope it's disturbing to you. Are you shook yet? Are you wanting to know more? I do hope that the trial, when it does come, that it is televised, because I think American people have a right to know, to see what's going on, to hear the actual evidence as it is being presented, to see the defense as it's being presented. And I think they can get jurors who are open to hear the facts, to weigh out what is proven beyond a reasonable doubt. This is the United States. This is America that we lived in. Majority of us were born here. And it matters. It matters to our democracy, and we have to fight to keep it. Thank you for watching the video. Thank you for hearing about the indictments. Going to be having some more future videos. Part 2 of the affordable housing video will be coming soon. Want to make sure that there are any other topics also that you're interested in as well. It's kind of hard to fit all the news into 1 week. So there are some more other topics that may do an extra video this week for trending headlines, but wanted to make sure that wanted to timely make sure that we talk about this and make sure that you're informed. I did specifically take time to print out the indictments to read for myself, because I wanted to understand it in more detail and not just what I was told as I encourage you. Never just take my word. Also, pull it up for yourselves as well. But our vote matters. Our vote will count. It has to count. Thank Vice President Pence for what he did that day, because if he did not refuse to take those fake electors, if he did not do his part in certifying the vote, also Nancy Pelosi and the other members of Congress who did do their job, even though their life was in peril, even though when they had the gallows thing out there, hang Mike Pence, if they could have gotten to him, I do believe they would have harmed him. If they had gotten to Nancy Pelosi, I do believe they would have harmed her. We know that from the man who broke into her house and harmed her husband. These people are not playing. They mean this with every fiber of their being and their body. And even as a lot of the January 6th people who were there, who breached the Capitol, who injured people, as we know, a minimum of 4 people died. This is very serious. And who's to say more people wouldn't have been harmed? Well, as we know from reporting, president at the time, Donald John Trump, was at the White House and wasn't doing anything, but watching it on the news. Wasn't doing anything to stop it. He was actually engaged in liking what happened. He had to be consistently asked to do a video to tell the people to go home. So that's where we stand. That's where it is. But justice, I pray, will come for all of those, because of the people who did that, who are against our democracy. I don't think just those people should be held accountable. I think everyone who were any part of that action and conspiracy and helped it and allow it, I think they should all get consequences as well. It's been my pleasure to provide you my commentary. I am Nona Black, political pundit. Please like the video, share, and subscribe. I would like to hear your comments. You may have a different opinion. You may don't think that he should have been charged. And that's okay if that's your opinion. We all ask is that we be respectful in the comments, respectful in our interaction, engaging with us. That was one of the reasons I did start this channel. I wanted to be able to have the political dialogue without calling each other names, in that way, because people have their own reasons for what they do, but also we do also have to stand on facts. And if something is a lie, it's a lie. Being respectful doesn't mean that you can't say a lie is a lie. All right, till we meet again, may the Lord watch between me and thee while we're absent one from another. This is Nona with Nona Black TV.